Imagine this, a guy, desperate to get his meddling mom off his back, hatches a wild plan to hire a fake wife. Sounds simple, right? But here's the kicker. When she walks into his life, she's not just any woman. Her beauty, her charm, her presence. It's like something out of a movie, and it knocks him completely off his feet. He's supposed to be in control, but suddenly, he's the one who's breathless. Why does this feel so real? What's her deal? And how is this pretend game gonna spiral into something nobody saw coming? You're probably wondering, what happens next? Does he fall for her? Does she have a secret? Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you're gonna get every single answer to those burning questions racing through your mind right now. I'm not just telling you a story. I'm pulling you into a roller coaster of emotions, where love, lies, and jaw-dropping surprises collide. So grab your popcorn, hit that like button, and let's dive into this crazy tale together, because trust me, you're not gonna want to miss a second of this. Let's set the scene. You're in your cozy living room, maybe sipping some coffee or scrolling on your phone, and you stumble across this video because you're curious. Curious about love stories that aren't your typical rom-com fluff. Curious about what happens when someone plays with fire and pretends to be something they're not. You're not alone in that curiosity. We've all wondered what it's like to fake it, till you make it, to put on a show for the world, only to realize the show's starting to feel way too real. That's exactly what's happening to our guy, Ethan, a 30-something bachelor living in the heart of Chicago, with a good job, a decent apartment, and a mom who's been hounding him about settling down since the day he turned 25. Ethan's not a bad guy. He's got a quick wit, a warm smile, and a heart that's probably a little too guarded for his own good. But his mom, Linda? Oh, she's a force of nature. Picture a woman who's equal parts loving and relentless, calling him every Sunday to ask, "When are you gonna give me grandkids?" Or, "Have you met someone special yet?" It's not that Ethan doesn't want love, it's just that he hasn't found it, and the pressure's starting to wear him down. So one day, fed up with the endless nagging, he comes up with a plan that's as bold as it is risky. He's gonna hire someone to play his wife for one weekend, just to get his mom off his case. Sounds like something straight out of a Hollywood script, right? But here's where it gets juicy. This plan is about to turn his whole world upside down, and you're gonna be right there with him, feeling every twist and turn. Now, let's talk about you for a second. I know you're watching this because you love a good story, one that makes you laugh, maybe tear up a little, and definitely keeps you glued to the screen. You're the kind of person who gets invested in characters, who feels their highs and lows like they're your own. That's why I'm talking directly to you. Because this story isn't just about Ethan or the mysterious woman who's about to walk into his life. It's about the choices we make when we're backed into a corner, the risks we take when we're chasing something we don't even fully understand. You've probably been there, maybe not hiring a fake spouse, but definitely in a moment where you thought, okay, I'll just do this one thing, and it'll all work out. And then boom, life throws you a curveball. That's what's coming for Ethan, and I promise you, it's gonna hit you just as hard. You're not just watching this video, you're living it with him, wondering if he's gonna crash and burn or come out stronger on the other side. And the best part? I'm not gonna leave you hanging. By the time this video ends, you'll know exactly how this wild plan plays out, and trust me, it's gonna be worth every minute. Let's introduce the woman who's about to change everything. Isabella. She's not just a random hire off some sketchy website. No, Isabella's got a spark that makes people stop and stare, not just because of her looks, though let's be real, Ethan's jaw practically hits the floor when he first sees her, but because of the way she carries herself. She's confident, quick with a comeback, and has this knack for making everyone around her feel like they're the only person in the room. But here's the thing. Isabella's not just a pretty face. There's something about her that Ethan can't quite pin down, a depth in her eyes that hints at a story she's not telling. Is she just in it for the money? Does she have her own reasons for agreeing to this crazy charade? You're probably already trying to figure her out, aren't you? That's exactly what Ethan's doing, and it's driving him nuts. He thought this was gonna be a simple transaction. Pay her, fool his mom, move on. But from the moment they meet, it's clear this is anything but simple. Their chemistry is electric, their banter is sharp, and every time she flashes that smile, Ethan's carefully laid plans start to unravel. You're gonna feel that tension, that pull between what's supposed to be fake and what's starting to feel dangerously real, and it's gonna keep you hooked. Now, let's talk about why this story matters. At its heart, this is about more than just a guy and a girl pretending to be married. It's about the masks we wear, the lies we tell. Not just to others, but to ourselves. Ethan spent years dodging his mom's questions, convincing himself he's fine being alone, but deep down he's scared. Scared of opening up, scared of getting hurt, scared of admitting he might actually want the kind of love his mom's always talking about. And Isabella? She's got her own walls, her own reasons for keeping people at arm's length. As you watch their story unfold, you're gonna see yourself in them. Those moments when you've put on a brave face, when you've pretended everything's okay even when it's not. That's what makes this story so gripping. It's not just about the drama or the romance. It's about what happens when two people, both running from something, collide in the most unexpected way. You're not just here for the plot twists though, trust me, there are plenty. You're here because you want to know if they'll find the courage to stop pretending and face the truth. And I'm gonna make sure you get that answer, but you've gotta stick with me to the end. Let's paint the picture of that first meeting, because this is where things start to get really good. Ethan's nervous, pacing his apartment, checking his watch every 5 seconds. He's posted an ad online, carefully worded of course, to avoid sounding like a total creep, and Isabella's the one who responded. He's expecting someone, well, ordinary. Someone who'll play the part, take the cash, and disappear. But when she knocks on his door, it's like the air gets sucked out of the room. She's wearing this simple sundress that somehow looks like it was made for her hair catching the light just right, and when she smiles, it's like she's already in on some secret he hasn't figured out yet. "You must be Ethan," she says, her voice warm but with a hint of mischief. He stammers something incoherent, and already, you can tell he's in over his head. They sit down to go over the plan, pretend to be married for one weekend at his mom's house in the suburbs, act lovey-dovey, answer a few questions about their relationship, and done. Easy, right? Except it's not. Because every time their eyes meet, every time she laughs at one of his dumb jokes, Ethan's starting to wonder if he's the one being played. And you're wondering too, aren't you? What's Isabella's angle? Why's she so good at this? And why does it feel like she's not just acting? Here's where I'm gonna let you in on a little promise. This video isn't just gonna throw you a bunch of cliches and call it a day. No predictable endings. No cheap drama. I've crafted this story to keep you guessing, to make you feel like you're right there with Ethan and Isabella, navigating this messy, beautiful, heart-pounding game of pretend. You're gonna laugh at their awkward moments, you're gonna gasp when secrets start spilling out, and you're gonna be on the edge of your seat wondering if they can pull this off, or if it's all gonna crash and burn. But to get there, you've gotta stay with me. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, because I'm dropping new stories like this every week, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. This isn't just a video, it's an experience, and I'm so stoked to share it with you. You're not just a viewer, you're part of this journey, and I'm talking to you like I'd talk to a friend, because that's what this channel's all about. Connecting, feeling, and diving into stories that hit you right in the gut. Let's talk about the stakes, because this isn't just about fooling Ethan's mom. Linda's not some gullible sitcom mom. She's sharp, intuitive, and she knows her son better than he knows himself. If she catches even a whiff that this marriage is fake, Ethan's not just looking at embarrassment. He's risking his relationship with the one person who's always been there for him. And then there's Isabella. Every time she dodges a question about her past, every time she hesitates before answering something personal, Ethan's suspicion grows. Is she hiding something? Is she running from something? Or someone? The more time they spend together, the more he's drawn to her. But the more he's drawn to her, the more he's terrified of what he might find out. You're feeling that tension too, right? That mix of excitement and dread. Wanting them to get closer but knowing it's gonna come at a cost. That's what's gonna keep you watching, because this story's not just about whether they can pull off the lie. It's about what happens when the lie starts to feel like the truth, and the truth is scarier than either of them expected. Now, let's zoom out for a second and think about why stories like this hit so hard. You're here because you love drama, romance, and those moments that make your heart race. But you're also here because you're human, and humans are messy. We lie, we love, we screw up, and sometimes we find something real in the most unexpected places. Ethan and Isabella are about to take you on a journey that's gonna make you question everything. Love, trust, even the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. You're not just watching this for the plot. You're watching because you want to know if two people can find their way through the chaos and come out stronger. And I'm promising you right now, you're gonna get that answer. But it's not gonna be what you expect. This story's got layers, surprises, and moments that'll stick with you long after the video ends. So don't you dare click away. Stay with me, because we're just getting started, and the next part's gonna blow your mind. As we wrap up this introduction, picture this. Ethan and Isabella are on their way to his mom's house, sitting in the car, the Chicago skyline fading in the rearview mirror. The plan's in place, the story's set. They've got their fake wedding rings, their rehearsed answers, their whole how we met spiel down pat. But as they drive, the silence between them is heavy, charged with something neither of them wants to name. Ethan's gripping the steering wheel a little too tight, stealing glances at Isabella, who's staring out the window like she's lost in another world. Then, out of nowhere, she turns to him and says something that stops him cold. Something that makes him question everything he thought he knew about her, about this plan, about himself. What did she say? Why does it feel like the whole game just changed? You're dying to know, aren't you? Good. Because that's exactly where we're headed next, and trust me, you're not ready for what's coming. The car hummed along the highway, the Chicago suburbs stretching out in a blur of green lawns and cookie-cutter houses, but inside, the air was thick with unspoken questions. Ethan's hands were still tight on the steering wheel, his mind replaying Isabella's words from moments ago. You ever wonder what it'd be like to just disappear and start over? It wasn't the question itself that threw him, it was the way she said it, her voice soft but heavy, like she was carrying a weight he couldn't see. He glanced at her, her profile sharp against the window, her dark hair catching the late afternoon sun. She hadn't elaborated, just let the words hang there, and now the silence was doing all the talking. Was she joking? Testing him? Or was there something real behind it, something that hinted at why a woman like her would agree to a stunt like this? Ethan's gut told him there was more to Isabella than she was letting on, and that curiosity was starting to feel like a hook in his chest, pulling him deeper into a game he wasn't sure he could win. You're probably sitting there, just as curious as he is, wondering what's going on in her head. Who is Isabella, really? Why is she here, playing pretend with a guy she barely knows? Stick with me, because this story's about to peel back some layers, and every answer's gonna spark a new question that'll keep you glued to this video. Let's rewind a bit to understand how Ethan got himself into this mess. Growing up in a tight-knit family, Ethan was always the good son. Helped with chores, got decent grades, never caused too much trouble. But he was also the dreamer, the one who'd stare out the window during family dinners, imagining a life bigger than the suburban street he called home. His mom, Linda, was his biggest cheerleader, but she had her own vision for his future. A steady job, a nice house, and a wife to share it all with. By the time Ethan hit his 30s, that vision had turned into a full-on campaign, with Linda dropping not-so-subtle hints about every single woman in their neighborhood. Ethan loved his mom, but her relentless matchmaking was suffocating, and after a string of awkward blind dates, he'd had enough. That's when the idea hit him. A fake wife, just for one weekend, to buy him some peace. He found a website for discreet personal services, posted an ad, and crossed his fingers he wouldn't end up with a con artist. When Isabella responded, her message was short but confident. I'm professional, discreet, and I know how to sell a story. Let's talk. Something about her words felt too perfect, like she'd done this before, and now, as they drove toward his mom's house, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that he'd bitten off more than he could chew. You're probably wondering the same thing he is. How does someone get so good at pretending? And what's she hiding behind that flawless smile? Isabella, on the other hand, was a mystery wrapped in charm. From the moment they met, she'd been in control, steering their conversations with ease, deflecting personal questions with a laugh or a clever quip. But there were moments, fleeting, almost invisible, when her guard slipped. Like when Ethan asked about her family, and her eyes flickered with something like pain before she changed the subject. Or when she fidgeted with the fake wedding ring on her finger, like it carried a weight heavier than the cheap metal it was made of. To Ethan, she was a puzzle, each piece more intriguing than the last. She said she was an actress, which explained her knack for playing the part, but there was something about her that didn't add up. Why would an actress take a gig like this? Was she between jobs, or was there something else going on? As they drove, Ethan caught her staring at a photo on her phone, a blurry shot of a little girl in a park, maybe 4 or 5 years old. Who's that? He asked, trying to sound casual. Isabella's fingers tightened around the phone, and she slipped it into her pocket with a quick, just a kid I know. The answer was too vague, too fast, and it sent Ethan's mind racing. A niece? A cousin? Or something more personal, something that might explain why she seemed so guarded? You're feeling that itch now, aren't you? That need to know who that little girl is and what she means to Isabella. Don't worry, we're gonna dig deeper, but every step's gonna pull you further into this tangled web. Meanwhile, back in Chicago, there's another piece of this story brewing. One Ethan doesn't even know about yet. His best friend Marcus has been watching this whole plan unfold with a mix of amusement and concern. Marcus is the kind of guy who says what everyone else is thinking. Blunt, loyal, and always ready with a beer and some unsolicited advice. When Ethan told him about the fake wife idea, Marcus laughed so hard he nearly choked on his pizza. "You're gonna pay a stranger to lie to your mom? Man, this is either gonna be hilarious or a total disaster." But now, as Ethan's off playing house, Marcus is starting to wonder if there's more to this than a funny story. He's been poking around, doing some light digging on Isabella's online profile, and what he's found, or rather what he hasn't found, is raising red flags. Her social media is sparse, almost too clean, like it's been scrubbed. No family photos, no tagged posts, just a handful of generic shots and vague captions. To Marcus, it smells like trouble, and he's torn between warning Ethan and letting his friend figure it out the hard way. You're probably thinking what Marcus is. Is Isabella hiding something big? Is she on the run, or is she just really private? That's the kind of suspense that's going to keep you watching, because every clue we uncover is going to make you question what you thought you knew. Let's add another layer to this, because this story's not just about Ethan and Isabella, it's about the ripple effects of their choices. Linda, Ethan's mom, isn't just a nosy parent. She's a woman who's poured her whole heart into her family, and Ethan's her only kid. After Ethan's dad passed away 10 years ago, Linda clung to the idea of seeing her son build the kind of life she and her husband had. Full of love, laughter, and maybe a few grandkids to spoil. But Ethan's been distant lately, brushing off her calls, dodging her questions, and it's been breaking her heart. When he told her he was bringing his wife to visit, Linda was over the moon, planning a whole weekend of home-cooked meals and family stories. But she's not naive. She's got a sharp eye and a mother's intuition, and something about Ethan's sudden marriage announcement feels off. As she's prepping the guest room, she's already mentally cataloging questions. How did they meet? Why haven't I heard about her before? And why does Ethan sound so nervous on the phone? Linda's not just a side character in this story. She's a wild card, and her suspicions are gonna add a whole new layer of tension to this weekend. You're probably imagining her now, sizing up Isabella the second she walks through the door, and you're right to wonder. Will she see through the act? Or will she be too caught up in her own hopes to notice the cracks? Back in the car, the tension between Ethan and Isabella is palpable. But it's not just about her cryptic comment or the photo on her phone. It's the way their fake story is starting to blur with reality. They've spent the last few days rehearsing their love story. A meet-cute at a coffee shop, a whirlwind romance, a quiet courthouse wedding. But as they talk, their banter feels less like acting and more like something else. When Isabella teases Ethan about his terrible taste in music, he fires back with a grin, and for a moment, they're not a client and a contractor. They're two people who genuinely enjoy each other's company. It's confusing, exhilarating, and terrifying all at once, especially for Ethan, who's spent years convincing himself he's better off alone. He's starting to notice things about her. The way she tucks her hair behind her ear when she's nervous. The way her laugh feels like a reward he didn't know he was chasing. But every time he gets too comfortable, that nagging voice in his head reminds him. This isn't real. She's being paid to be here to say these things, to look at him like he's the only guy in the world. Or is she? You're feeling that push and pull, right? That mix of hope and doubt that's got Ethan second-guessing everything. You're not alone. Every twist in this story's designed to keep you right there with him, heart racing, waiting for the next shoe to drop. As they pull into Linda's driveway, the stakes feel higher than ever. The house is classic suburban, white picket fence, flower beds bursting with color, a porch swing that's seen better days. It's the kind of place that screams home, but for Ethan, it's a minefield of memories and expectations. Isabella takes a deep breath, slipping into character, but there's a flicker of something in her eyes. Nerves, maybe, or something deeper. Ethan's about to ask her if she's okay when his phone buzzes with a text from Marcus. "Call me ASAP. Found something weird about your wife." Before he can process it, the front door swings open, and there's Linda, arms wide, a smile that could light up the block. "My baby. And this must be the woman who stole your heart," she says, pulling Isabella into a hug. Isabella plays her part perfectly, but Ethan's heart is pounding, caught between his mom's joy, Marcus's warning, and the growing realization that he's not just pretending anymore. What did Marcus find? How long can Isabella keep up the act? And what happens when the truth, whatever it is, comes crashing down? You're on the edge of your seat, aren't you? Good, because this story's just heating up, and the next twist is gonna leave you speechless. The warmth of Linda's hug enveloped Isabella, and for a split second, Ethan thought he saw her stiffen, like she wasn't used to this kind of affection. But then she melted into it. Her smile so convincing that even Ethan almost believed they were the happily married couple they were pretending to be. Linda ushered them into the house, her chatter filling the air with stories about Ethan's childhood and questions about their wedding. The living room smelled like fresh-baked cookies and nostalgia, with family photos lining the walls and a cozy fire crackling in the hearth. It was the kind of scene that could make anyone feel at home, but Ethan's stomach was in knots. Marcus's text, "Call me ASAP. Found something weird about your wife," was burning a hole in his pocket, and every time Isabella laughed at one of Linda's stories, he wondered if he was being played. You're probably feeling that same unease, aren't you? That mix of wanting to trust Isabella's charm but sensing there's something she's not saying. As they sat down for dinner, the tension was palpable, but nothing could have prepared Ethan, or you, for the bombshell that was about to drop, a twist so unexpected it would turn this whole charade upside down. Stick with me, because this story's about to take a turn that'll leave you gasping, and every second is gonna pull you deeper into this wild ride of love, lies, and secrets. Dinner was a masterclass in performance. Isabella was flawless, weaving their fake love story with just enough detail to sound real. A chance meeting at a coffee shop, a first date at a jazz club, a proposal under the stars. Linda ate it up, her eyes sparkling with pride, but Ethan could tell she was watching closely, her questions getting sharper. "So, Isabella, what do your parents think of my Ethan?" she asked, passing the mashed potatoes. Isabella's fork paused mid-air, just for a fraction of a second, before she flashed a smile and said, "They're thrilled. They think he's a keeper." It was a smooth answer, but Ethan caught the flicker of discomfort in her eyes, the same one he'd seen when he asked about the little girl in the photo. He wanted to press her to ask what she was hiding, but before he could, the doorbell rang. Linda frowned, muttering, "Who could that be?" as she got up to answer it. Ethan's heart sank when he heard a familiar voice. Marcus, his best friend, who was supposed to be back in Chicago, not standing in his mom's foyer with a look that screamed trouble. "Sorry to crash," Marcus said, his eyes darting to Isabella, "but we need to talk. Now." You're probably screaming internally, just like Ethan was, wondering what Marcus knows and why he couldn't just send another text. This is where things start to spiral, and trust me, you're not ready for what's coming next. Marcus pulled Ethan into the kitchen, leaving Isabella with Linda, who was now peppering her with questions about their honeymoon plans. Ethan's pulse was racing as Marcus lowered his voice, his usual easygoing vibe replaced by something deadly serious. "I did some digging on your girl," he said, glancing over his shoulder to make sure they were alone. "That Isabella? She's not just some actress. Her real name's Elena Martinez, and she's got a past, man. I found court records, nothing major, but there's a custody case tied to her name. And that's not all. Her socials? They're fake. Like, created 6 months ago fake." Ethan's mind reeled. Custody case? Fake socials? The photo of the little girl flashed in his head, and suddenly, Isabella's vague answers and guarded glances started to make sense. Or did they? Was she a con artist? A mom on the run? Or was Marcus jumping to conclusions? Before Ethan could process it, Marcus dropped the real bombshell. "And here's the kicker, someone's looking for her. I found a post on a private forum. Some guy asking about an Elena, who matches her description. Sounds like he's not happy." Ethan's knees felt weak. He'd hired Isabella to fool his mom, not to drag him into some kind of fugitive drama. You're probably as shocked as he is, your mind racing with questions. Who's looking for Isabella? What's the deal with the custody case? And how's Ethan gonna keep up this act when his whole world's crumbling? Back in the dining room, Isabella was holding her own, but Ethan could see the strain in her smile. Linda was relentless, asking about her job, her family, her dreams, and with every question, Isabella's answers got a little tighter, a little less convincing. Ethan wanted to jump in, to steer the conversation away, but his head was spinning with Marcus's revelations. He couldn't look at Isabella, Elena, without seeing that photo, without wondering who she really was. And yet, when their eyes met across the table, there was something in her gaze that hit him like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just fear or guilt, it was vulnerability, like she was begging him to trust her, even if she couldn't explain why. For a moment, he forgot about Marcus, forgot about the lies, and just saw her. The woman who'd made him laugh harder than he had in years, who'd made this crazy plan feel like it might actually work. Was it all an act? Or was there something real between them, something worth risking everything for? You're feeling that tug too, aren't you? That desperate need to know if Isabella's playing him or if she's caught in the same whirlwind of emotions he is. This is the kind of drama that keeps you hooked, and we're nowhere near done. Let's zoom out to the subplot with Linda, because she's not just a bystander in this mess. As the dinner conversation dragged on, Linda's intuition was in overdrive. She'd always prided herself on reading people, and something about Isabella wasn't adding up. The way she dodged questions about her past, the way her laugh never quite reached her eyes. It reminded Linda of someone she'd known years ago, a friend who'd been running from a bad marriage. Was Isabella in trouble? Or was she just nervous about meeting her mother-in-law? Linda wasn't sure, but she was determined to find out. While clearing the dishes, she slipped into the kitchen and overheard a snippet of Ethan and Marcus's hushed conversation. Something about court records and custody. Her heart sank. Had Ethan married someone with a secret? Or worse, was this whole marriage a sham? Linda wasn't ready to confront them yet, but she was watching, waiting, and piecing things together. You're probably imagining her now, stacking plates with a calm smile while her mind races, and you're right to wonder. How long before she calls them out? Her suspicions are adding fuel to this already explosive situation, and it's only a matter of time before it all blows up. Then came the twist that nobody saw coming. As the group moved to the living room for coffee, Isabella's phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it, and her face went pale, like ghost white pale. Ethan caught it, and so did Linda, who raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Isabella mumbled an excuse about needing some air and stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind her. Ethan's instincts screamed to follow her, but before he could, Marcus grabbed his arm. Don't let her slip up. You need to know who you're dealing with. But Ethan couldn't shake the image of her expression. Pure panic, like a deer caught in headlights. Against his better judgment, he slipped out after her, staying just out of sight. That's when he overheard her on the phone, her voice low and urgent. I told you, I'm handling it. She's safe, okay? No one knows where we are. Ethan's blood ran cold. She? The little girl? Was Isabella hiding a child? And from who? Before he could step forward, he heard footsteps behind him. Linda, her face a mix of concern and suspicion. Ethan, she whispered. What's going on? Who's she talking to? Caught between his mom's questions, Isabella's secrets, and Marcus's warnings, Ethan realized he was in way over his head. And then, from the darkness beyond the porch, a car's headlights flicked on, idling at the end of the street. Someone was watching. You're on the edge of your seat now, right? Who's in that car? What's Isabella running from? And how's Ethan gonna keep this from falling apart? Don't blink, because the next part's gonna hit like a freight train. The headlights at the end of the street burned into Ethan's vision, their glow casting long shadows across Linda's quiet suburban lawn. His heart hammered as he stood frozen on the porch, Isabella's hushed phone conversation echoing in his ears. She's safe, okay? No one knows where we are. Linda's hand was on his arm, her whisper sharp with worry, and behind them, Marcus was pacing in the living room. His earlier warnings about Isabella, Elena, ringing truer by the second. The car hadn't moved, its engine idling like a predator waiting to pounce, and Ethan's mind raced with questions. Who was watching? Was it the person Marcus found online, the one looking for Elena? And who was the she Isabella was so desperate to protect? You're probably gripping your phone right now, feeling the same pulse-pounding suspense, wondering how this tangled web of lies and secrets is going to unravel. This is it, the moment where everything collides, where the truth comes crashing through, and I promise you the climax of this story is going to leave you speechless. But just when you think you've got it figured out, there's one final twist that'll flip everything you thought you knew. Stay with me, because we're diving into the heart of this drama, and every answer is going to hit you like a tidal wave. Ethan's first instinct was to confront Isabella, to demand answers, but something in her voice, raw, almost pleading, stopped him. He stepped onto the porch, ignoring Linda's soft protest, and approached her just as she ended the call. Her eyes widened when she saw him, and for a moment, she looked like she might bolt. Ethan, I can explain, she started, but before she could, the car at the end of the street revved its engine and peeled away, tires screeching into the night. The sound snapped Linda into action. She was at the door in an instant, her voice trembling. "Ethan, what's happening? Is she in trouble? Are you?" Ethan didn't know where to begin, but the look on Isabella's face, fear mixed with something like resolve, told him this was the moment of truth. "No more games," he said, his voice low but firm. "Who are you, really? And who was that?" Isabella's shoulders sagged, and she sank onto the porch swing, her hands trembling as she clutched her phone. "My name is Elena," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "And the she I was talking about? That's my daughter, Mia. She's 5, and I'm doing everything I can to keep her safe." The words hit Ethan like a punch, and you're probably feeling it too. That shock of realization, the pieces of the puzzle finally clicking into place, only to reveal a picture far more complicated than anyone expected. Elena's story poured out in a rush, each word heavy with the weight of a life Ethan hadn't even glimpsed. She wasn't just an actress. She was a single mom who'd fled an abusive ex, a man named Victor who'd controlled every aspect of her life until she'd found the courage to leave. The custody case Marcus had found? It was Elena fighting to keep Mia, but Victor was relentless, using his money and connections to track her down. The fake socials, the vague answers, the photo of the little girl. It all made sense now. She'd taken the pretend wife gig because she needed cash to keep moving, to stay one step ahead of Victor. "I didn't mean to drag you into this," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "I thought it'd be quick money, a way to disappear again. But then, I met you." Her voice cracked, and Ethan's heart twisted. He wanted to be angry, to feel betrayed, but all he could see was the woman who'd made him laugh, who'd challenged him, who'd made this crazy plan feel like something real. Linda, standing silently by the door, was listening, her expression softening as Elena spoke. Marcus, who'd joined them on the porch, looked torn between skepticism and sympathy. "You're probably caught in the same whirlwind of emotions, wondering if Elena's telling the whole truth, if Ethan can trust her, and what happens now that her past is catching up." The climax hit like a storm. Before anyone could process Elena's confession, Linda's phone buzzed with a text from a neighbor. "Saw a strange car circling the block. Everything okay?" Ethan's blood ran cold. Victor, or someone working for him, was close, closer than they'd thought. Elena's face went pale, and she grabbed Ethan's arm. "If he finds me, he'll take Mia. I can't let that happen." In that moment, Ethan made a choice. He didn't care about the lies, the fake marriage, or even the risk. He cared about Elena, about the little girl he'd never met, and about doing what was right. "You're not facing this alone," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos in his chest. He turned to Linda and Marcus. "We need to get her somewhere safe. Now." Linda, who'd been quiet until then, stepped forward, her motherly instincts kicking into overdrive. "My friend Susan runs a women's shelter downtown. They can help. Let's go." Marcus, still wary but loyal to a fault, nodded. "I'll drive. But we're gonna have a long talk about this later, man." As they piled into Marcus's car, Elena clutched a small locket around her neck, a photo of Mia inside, and Ethan realized he was all in, no turning back. You're probably on the edge of your seat, heart racing as they speed into the night, wondering if they'll outrun Victor, if Elena and Mia will be safe, and if this fake love story could actually become real. The resolution came fast, but it wasn't without its challenges. At the shelter, Susan, a no-nonsense woman with a heart of gold, took Elena in, promising to connect her with legal aid to fight Victor's custody claims. Ethan, Linda, and Marcus stayed by her side, forming an unlikely team bound by the night's chaos. Linda, who'd started the weekend dreaming of a perfect daughter-in-law, found something better, a cause to fight for, a chance to help someone who needed it. She hugged Elena tightly, whispering, "You're family now, whether you like it or not." Marcus, ever the skeptic, softened when he saw Elena's locket, admitting he might have judged her too quickly. As for Ethan, he and Elena had a quiet moment outside the shelter, the city lights flickering around them. "I'm sorry I lied," she said, her eyes searching his. "But I'm not sorry I met you." Ethan took her hand, his heart full despite the madness. "Good," he said, a small smile breaking through. "Because I'm not letting you disappear." It was a promise not just to her, but to himself, to stop running from love, to take a chance on something real. You're probably feeling that warmth, that hope, as the main conflicts resolve. Elena's safe, her daughter's protected, and Ethan's found a purpose he didn't know he was searching for. But this story's not over yet. there's one final twist that'll leave you stunned. Just as they thought the danger had passed, Susan rushed out of the shelter, her face grim. Elena, there's a man here. Says he's your brother. Not Victor. He's been looking for you for years. Elena froze, her hand tightening around Ethan's. My brother, she whispered, disbelief etched across her face. She told Ethan her family was gone, lost to the chaos of her past, but now a man named Daniel stepped forward, his eyes brimming with tears. Elena, it's me. I thought I'd lost you forever. The story he told was heartbreaking. After Elena fled Victor, her family had been fed lies, told she didn't want contact. Daniel had spent years searching, piecing together clues, and the private forum post Marcus found? That was him, not Victor, desperate to find his sister. The reunion was raw, emotional, and completely unexpected, tying up the last loose end in a way no one saw coming. Ethan watched as Elena embraced her brother, tears streaming down her face, and he realized this was more than just a love story. It was a story of second chances, of finding family in the most unlikely places. You're probably in awe right now. Feeling the weight of that twist, the way it transforms Elena's journey from one of survival to one of reconnection and hope. As the video draws to a close, let's reflect on what this story means. You came here for a tale of fake love and breathless drama, but you're leaving with something deeper. A reminder that the masks we wear, the lies we tell, often hide the truest parts of ourselves. Ethan started this weekend trying to fool his mom, but he ended up finding his courage, his heart, and a woman who changed everything. Elena, running from her past, found a future she never dared to dream of. And Linda and Marcus? They learned that family isn't just blood. It's the people you choose to stand by when the world gets messy. This story's stuck with you, hasn't it? Not just because of the twists or the romance, but because it's a mirror to our own lives, to the moments when we've had to choose between playing it safe and taking a leap. So, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you thought of this wild ride. Because here's the real takeaway. Love, trust, and truth. They're worth fighting for, even when the odds seem impossible. And who knows? Maybe your own story's just waiting for its next unexpected twist.